The crystal vase shattered against the marble floor 2 inches from Ingrid's feet. "Get out." Camilla's voice cracked through the dining room like a whip. Her hands shook as she reached for another piece of expensive china. "Get out of my house." Ingrid stood frozen, her lips still burning from what she'd just done. The taste of champagne and desperation lingered in her mouth. Across the long dining table covered in half-eaten birthday cake and wilting roses, Hollis Crane hadn't moved. His blue eyes were wide, one hand still raised where Ingrid had grabbed it, pulled him close, and pressed her lips against his in front of everyone. "Camilla, wait. Please just listen." Ingrid's voice came out smaller than she intended. Her uniform, the black dress with white apron that made her invisible in this house for 3 years, suddenly felt like a costume. Like a lie. "Listen." Camilla's laugh was sharp and cruel. She pressed one hand against her swollen belly, 8 months pregnant and glowing with rage. "Listen to what?" "To the little maid who just kissed my husband at my son's birthday party." From somewhere behind the kitchen door, Ingrid could hear crying. Theo. 6 years old today, and she'd just ruined everything. Hollis finally stood. His chair scraped against the floor. "Camilla, she's trying to tell you something. If you would just calm down and—" "Calm down." The second vase flew. This one hit the wall beside Hollis's head, exploding into 1,000 glittering pieces. "Don't you dare tell me to calm down. Not after you, in front of our son." Ingrid's whole body trembled. She'd practiced this moment in her head 100 times. 1,000 times. But none of those versions included Camilla's face twisted in hurt and fury, or the sound of Theo sobbing in the next room, or the way the household staff had scattered like frightened birds the moment her lips touched Hollis's. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. "Mrs. Crane." Ingrid took one step forward, glass crunching under her shoe. "I kissed your husband because I had to get your attention. Because you won't listen. Because nobody in this house will listen to me." "Oh, I'm listening now." Camilla's voice dropped to something dangerous and quiet. "I'm listening to every word before I call the police and have you arrested for assault." "Camilla, stop." Hollis moved around the table, but he didn't go to his wife. He didn't go to Ingrid either. He stood in the middle, looking lost in his own home. "Let her speak." "Why?" Camilla's eyes filled with tears. One hand stayed protectively over her belly. "Why should I let the woman who just humiliated me in front of my family speak? Why, Hollis? Are you in love with her? Is that it? Is that why you've been so distant? So cold?" "No." Ingrid said it too loud, too fast. "No, he doesn't love me. He barely knows I exist. I've worked in this house for 3 years and he's never once looked at me like that." "Then why?" Camilla whispered. A tear rolled down her perfect cheek, and Ingrid felt something break inside her chest. "Why would you do this?" Ingrid reached into her apron pocket. Her fingers closed around the small plastic stick she'd been carrying for 2 days. The one she'd stared at in the staff bathroom until the 2 pink lines burned into her vision. The one that changed everything. "Because I'm pregnant," Ingrid said. The words fell into the room like stones into still water. "And the father is in this house." Camilla went very still. Hollis's face drained of color. "But it's not him," Ingrid continued, her voice shaking. "It's not your husband, Mrs. Crane. I kissed him because I knew it was the only way you'd stop and look at me. Really look at me. Because I need help. Because I'm terrified. And because the real father—" She couldn't finish. The words stuck in her throat like broken glass. Hollis found his voice first. "Who?" Ingrid closed her eyes. When she opened them again, she looked directly at Camilla. "I need to tell you something about this family. About the people you trust. And I'm so sorry, but the kiss was the only way I could think of to make you see me as a real person instead of just the girl who cleans your floors." The room held its breath. Camilla slowly lowered herself into a chair, her hand never leaving her belly. When she spoke again, her voice was different. "Careful. Start talking." And Ingrid did. She talked about being 24 years old and alone in a city that cost too much to live in. She talked about taking the job at the Crane estate because it paid twice what other housekeeping positions offered and included a small room in the staff quarters. She talked about being invisible, about learning the rhythms of the house, about Theo's gap-toothed smile when she made him chocolate chip pancakes on Sunday mornings. She talked about 6 weeks ago, when Hollis's mother Vivian had hosted one of her charity galas. About staying late to help clean up. About the man who'd cornered her in the wine cellar. Camilla's face went pale. "No. I didn't want to believe it either," Ingrid whispered. "I tried to forget. I tried to pretend it didn't happen. But then I started feeling sick, and I took the test, and... my brother." Camilla's voice cracked. "You're saying my brother?" Ingrid nodded. She felt hollow. "Warren. He said nobody would believe me if I told. He said I was just the help. He said..." She couldn't continue. The memory of his breath on her neck, his hand over her mouth, the smell of expensive cologne mixed with wine, it all came rushing back and her knees buckled. Hollis caught her before she hit the ground. His hands were gentle, his face stricken with horror and guilt. "Oh God. Ingrid, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry we didn't see. That I didn't see." Camilla was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. "Why didn't you go to the police?" "Because I have nothing," Ingrid said. The words came out broken. "No money for a lawyer. No proof. No family to back me up. I'm nobody. And he's Warren Ashford. I've seen his face on magazine covers. I've heard how your mother talks about him like he walks on water. Who would believe me?" "I believe you." Camilla's voice was steel-wrapped in velvet. She stood up, wincing slightly, one hand supporting her back. She crossed the space between them and looked Ingrid directly in the eyes. "I believe you. And I'm going to help you. But first, I need you to tell me everything. Every single detail. Can you do that?" Ingrid searched Camilla's face for judgment, for doubt, for the disgust she'd expected. Instead, she found something she hadn't dared hope for. She found an ally. "Yes," Ingrid breathed. "Yes, I can do that." Hollis was already pulling out his phone. "I'm calling our lawyer. And then I'm calling the police. Warren isn't getting away with this." "Wait." Camilla held up one hand. Her eyes had gone sharp, calculating. "If we move too fast, he'll run. He has money, connections. We need to be smart about this." She turned back to Ingrid. "How far along are you?" 6 weeks. Maybe 7. "Have you told anyone else?" "No. You're the first." "Well, the first who believed me." Something flickered across Camilla's face. Pain, recognition, understanding. "This isn't the first time he's done this, is it?" Ingrid shook her head slowly. "There was another girl. Marissa. She worked here before me. I found her number in the old staff directory. I called her 3 days ago. She told me Warren did the same thing to her 2 years ago. But when she tried to report it, your mother paid her off and made her sign papers saying she'd never speak about the family again." The silence that followed was deafening. Hollis looked like he might be sick. "My mother knew?" "Marissa said Vivian told her that boys will be boys. That she was probably asking for it, wearing her uniform too tight. That the Crane family reputation was more important than one girl's accusations." Camilla's hand tightened into a fist. When she spoke, her voice was quiet and dangerous. "That woman will never set foot in my house again." "Camilla." Hollis started. "I mean it, Hollis. Your mother protected a predator. She paid off his victim. She's probably done it more than once." Camilla's eyes blazed. "And now he's hurt another innocent girl. Another girl who came to us for safety, for a job, for a chance. And we failed her." "You didn't know," Ingrid said quietly. "That's not good enough." Camilla wiped her eyes. "Not knowing isn't an excuse. We should have created an environment where you felt safe coming to us the day it happened. Where you didn't have to kiss my husband just to get my attention. Ingrid felt something warm bloom in her chest. Hope, maybe. Or relief. Or the simple recognition that she was finally being seen. What do we do now? She asked. Camilla looked at Hollis. Some silent conversation passed between them. Then Camilla turned back to Ingrid and did something completely unexpected. She took Ingrid's hand. Now, Camilla said, we fight. But first, I need to ask you something. That kiss. That took a lot of courage. Or a lot of desperation. Which was it? Ingrid thought about it. Both. A small smile crossed Camilla's face. The first since the vase shattered. Good. You're going to need both before this is over. Warren has my mother's protection and a lot of money. But he doesn't have what we have. What's that? The truth. And two very angry women who are done being quiet. Hollis cleared his throat. Three very angry people. I'm with you on this. Whatever it takes. From the kitchen, Theo's crying had stopped. Ingrid could hear Ruth, the head housekeeper, speaking in soothing tones. The party was ruined. The house was a mess. Everything had changed in the span of 10 minutes. But for the first time in 6 weeks, Ingrid didn't feel alone. There's something else you should know, Ingrid said. Warren is supposed to come to dinner here tomorrow night. Your mother invited him. Some kind of business celebration. Camilla and Hollis exchanged looks again. Perfect, Camilla said. Her voice had gone cold. Then we have until tomorrow to prepare. Ingrid, I want you to write down everything you remember. Times, dates, what he said, what he did. Everything. Even the smallest details matter. Okay. And I want you to stay in the main house tonight. Not in the staff quarters. We have plenty of guest rooms. You're not staying out there alone. Mrs. Crane, I couldn't possibly. It's Camilla. Just Camilla. And yes, you can. You will. She squeezed Ingrid's hand. You're not the help anymore. You're a victim who deserves justice. And until we get you that justice, you're under my protection. Understood. Ingrid's eyes filled with tears. She nodded, not trusting her voice. Hollis was already typing on his phone. I'm texting our lawyer now. Rebecca Tsai. She's the best. She'll know how to handle this quietly and effectively. Not too quietly, Camilla said. I want Warren to face consequences. Real ones. He will, Hollis promised. I'll make sure of it. Ingrid looked between them, these two people who an hour ago were strangers despite living in the same house for 3 years. People she'd served coffee to, cleaned up after, existed around like furniture. And now they were looking at her like she mattered. Like her pain mattered. Like she was worth fighting for. Why are you helping me? The question slipped out before she could stop it. Camilla's expression softened. Because someone should have helped the girl before you. And the one before her, if there was one. Because I have a daughter growing inside me, and I want her to grow up in a world where powerful men can't hurt women without consequences. Because it's the right thing to do. She paused, then added quietly, and because I know what it's like to not be believed. Hollis's head snapped up. Camilla. Not now, she said gently. But yes. I know. And I'm not letting it happen again. Not in my house. Not to someone I could have protected. The weight of that confession hung in the air. Ingrid understood then that this wasn't just about her. It was about every woman who'd been silenced, paid off, or told to be quiet for the sake of someone else's reputation. It was bigger than one kiss, one pregnancy, one crime. It was about changing everything. Thank you, Ingrid whispered. Thank you for believing me. Camilla pulled her into a careful hug, mindful of her pregnant belly. Thank you for being brave enough to tell me. Even if your method was a little dramatic. Despite everything, Ingrid felt a laugh bubble up. I'm sorry about that. I really am. I didn't know what else to do. Well, it worked. Camilla pulled back, wiping her eyes. You definitely got my attention. Though maybe next time try a strongly worded note. There won't be a next time, Ingrid said firmly. I'm done being invisible. Good. Camilla smiled. Because I see you now. And I'm not looking away. From the kitchen doorway, little Theo appeared, his face tear-stained and confused. Ruth stood behind him, wringing her hands nervously. Mama. Theo's voice was small. Is Miss Ingrid in trouble? Camilla knelt down, grunting slightly with the effort. No, baby. Miss Ingrid is very, very brave. And she's going to stay with us for a while. Is that okay with you? Theo nodded slowly. Then he looked at Ingrid. Did I do something wrong? Is that why everyone's upset? Because it's my birthday and I made a wish and... No, sweetheart. Ingrid crossed to him, kneeling too. You didn't do anything wrong. The adults were just talking about some grown-up things. I'm sorry we scared you. Are you and Daddy in love? Theo asked with the blunt honesty of 6-year-olds everywhere. Is that why you kissed him? No. Ingrid smiled gently. Your daddy loves your mama very much. I kissed him to get your mama's attention because I needed help with something important. It was a silly way to do it, and I shouldn't have done it at your party. I'm sorry. Theo seemed to consider this. Okay. Can we still have cake? The tension broke. Camilla laughed, Hollis smiled, and even Ruth looked relieved. Yes, Camilla said, standing up with Hollis's help. We can still have cake. But first, Miss Ingrid is going to move into the guest room upstairs. Can you help her carry her things? Really? Theo's face lit up. She's staying in the big house. Really? As Theo grabbed Ingrid's hand and started chattering about which guest room had the best view, Ingrid looked back at Camilla and Hollis. They stood together, his arm around her shoulders, watching her with expressions of determination and something else. Respect. For the first time since that horrible night in the wine cellar, Ingrid felt like maybe, just maybe, everything was going to be okay. She didn't know about the battles ahead. The confrontation with Warren. The ugly fight with Vivian. The legal proceedings and the media storm and all the painful, difficult moments still to come. But she knew she wasn't facing them alone. And that made all the difference. What would you have done in Ingrid's position? Would you have found a different way to get help, or was the dramatic kiss the only option left? Drop your thoughts below. The guest room was 3 times the size of Ingrid's quarters in the staff wing. It had actual windows that looked out over the garden instead of the parking lot. The bed had a cream-colored duvet that looked like it cost more than she made in a month. There was a bathroom attached, with towels so soft Ingrid was afraid to touch them. Theo had carried her one small duffel bag like it was treasure, placing it carefully on the upholstered bench at the foot of the bed. Then he'd shown her how the lights worked, where the extra blankets were kept, and informed her very seriously that if she got scared at night, his room was just down the hall and she could knock any time. Now he was gone, called away by Ruth for his actual bedtime, and Ingrid sat on the edge of the bed trying to process what had just happened. Her phone buzzed. A text from a number she didn't recognize. This is Rebecca Tsai, the Crane family attorney. Hollis gave me your number. I need to meet with you first thing tomorrow morning. 8 a.m. I'm coming to the house. Don't worry about anything tonight. Just rest. We'll handle this together. Ingrid stared at the message. We'll handle this together. More people on her side. More people who believed her. She placed one hand on her still flat stomach. It's going to be okay, she whispered. I'm going to make sure you're safe. I promise. A soft knock on the door made her jump. It's just me, Camilla's voice came through. Can I come in? Of course. Camilla entered slowly, one hand supporting her lower back. She'd changed out of her party dress into comfortable-looking pajamas. Her face was scrubbed clean of makeup, and she looked younger. Tired. Real. I wanted to check on you, Camilla said. This has been a lot. For both of us. I'm okay. Well, not okay. But better than I was this morning. Ingrid gestured at the room. This is too much. You don't have to. I want to. Camilla sat down in the armchair by the window. And I need to apologize. Really apologize. I threw things at you. I screamed at you. I called you horrible names in my head. And you were just trying to get help. You didn't know. Anyone would have reacted that way. Maybe. But I should have been the kind of person you felt safe coming to in the first place. Camilla looked down at her hands. I've lived in this house for 7 years. I've had staff the whole time. And I never once thought about what their lives were like. If they felt safe. If they needed anything. I just assumed everything was fine because that's what I wanted to believe. You're not responsible for what Warren did. No. But I'm responsible for creating an environment where you didn't think you could tell me. Where you had to do something desperate and dramatic just to be heard. Camilla met her eyes. That changes now. After this is over, after we deal with Warren, I'm changing how this household runs. No more invisible staff. No more people living here who I don't actually know. Ingrid felt her throat tighten. You really believe me? About everything? I do. Can I ask why? Most people wouldn't. Most people would think I was lying or trying to get money or... Because of the way you looked when you said his name. Camilla's voice went quiet. I've seen that look before. In the mirror. A long time ago. The air in the room changed. Ingrid waited, sensing that Camilla needed to say something that had been locked away for years. I was 19, Camilla said finally. College freshman. There was a party. A boy I thought I knew. Too much alcohol and not enough friends paying attention. She paused. I never reported it. I told myself it was my fault for drinking. For going upstairs with him. For not fighting harder. Camilla. My parents said the same thing when I finally told them 3 months later. They said I was probably misremembering. That I'd regret ruining a nice boy's life over a misunderstanding. So I stayed quiet. I graduated. I met Hollis. I built a good life. And I told myself I was over it. Tears rolled down Camilla's cheeks. But then you said Warren's name with that look in your eyes, and I knew. I knew exactly what had happened. And I knew I couldn't let you go through what I went through. I couldn't let another girl be silenced. Ingrid crossed the room and knelt beside Camilla's chair. She took the older woman's hand. I'm so sorry that happened to you. I'm sorry it happened to you too. Camilla squeezed her hand. But we're going to make sure Warren faces consequences. Real ones. The kind that boy from my college never faced. What if he runs? What if your mother warns him? She won't get the chance. Hollis is handling that. Camilla wiped her eyes. Vivian is about to learn that protecting Warren means losing access to her grandson. And her granddaughter when she's born. Some things are more important than family loyalty. Won't that be hard? She's Hollis's mother. Yes. But she made her choice when she paid off Marissa. When she chose Warren's reputation over a victim's trauma. Now Hollis is making his choice. And he's choosing what's right. Through the window, Ingrid could see the lights of the city in the distance. Somewhere out there, Warren was going about his evening, completely unaware that his world was about to collapse. The thought should have felt satisfying. Instead, it just felt heavy. I'm scared, Ingrid admitted. What if the lawyer can't help? What if there's not enough evidence? What if? Then we fight anyway. Camilla's voice was firm. We tell your story. We find Marissa and see if she'll break her silence now that she's not alone. We make noise. We make sure that even if the legal system fails, everyone knows what kind of man Warren Ashford really is. Your mother will hate you. She probably already does, a little. I've never been the daughter-in-law she wanted. Too opinionated. Too stubborn. Too unwilling to just smile and nod. Camilla smiled slightly. Now she'll have a real reason. Ingrid looked at this woman who had every reason to hate her, who she'd humiliated in front of her family, who she'd kissed the husband of. And instead of hate, she saw strength, determination, solidarity. "Why are you really doing this?" Ingrid asked. "The truth." Camilla was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Because I have a daughter coming. And I need to be able to look her in the eye someday and tell her that when it mattered, when I had the power and resources to help someone, I did. I need her to grow up knowing that women protect each other, that we believe each other, that we fight for each other." She placed her hand over her belly. "And because I have a son who needs to learn that actions have consequences, that you can't hurt people and hide behind money and family names. I want Theo to grow up knowing his parents stood up for what was right, even when it was hard. He's lucky to have you. We'll see if you still think that after you spend more time with me. I'm kind of a lot." Camilla smiled. "Hollis says I have opinions about everything and no filter for sharing them. Sounds like exactly what I need right now." A comfortable silence settled between them. Outside, the night deepened. Inside, something new was being built. Not quite friendship yet, but the foundation of it. Trust, respect, common purpose. "You should get some sleep," Camilla said, standing slowly. "Tomorrow is going to be difficult. Rebecca will have a lot of questions. And we need to prepare for Warren's visit. Are we really going to let him come to dinner? Knowing what we know. We are. Because we need him to feel safe, comfortable. We need him to think nothing has changed." Camilla's expression hardened. "And then when he's relaxed and smug and certain he got away with it again, we're going to show him exactly what happens when you underestimate the women you've hurt." Ingrid felt a shiver run through her. Not fear this time. Something else. Something that felt like power. "Get some sleep, Ingrid. You're safe here. I promise." After Camilla left, Ingrid changed into her pajamas and climbed into the impossibly soft bed. She thought she'd lie awake for hours, replaying the day, worrying about tomorrow. But exhaustion pulled her under almost immediately. She dreamed of the wine cellar. But this time, when Warren cornered her, she wasn't alone. Camilla was there. And Hollis. And a lawyer with sharp eyes and a sharper smile. And Marissa, the girl who came before. And dozens of other women, all standing together, all refusing to be quiet anymore. In the dream, Warren got smaller and smaller until he disappeared completely. When Ingrid woke up, sunlight was streaming through the windows. Someone had left a tray outside her door. Coffee, toast, fresh fruit, and a note in elegant handwriting. "Wear something comfortable. Rebecca can be intense, but she's on your side. We all are. You've got this. See." Ingrid ate the toast and drank the coffee and tried to calm the butterflies in her stomach. At exactly 8 o'clock, there was a knock on the main door downstairs. She heard voices. Footsteps. Then Camilla was at her door. "Ready?" "No. But let's do it anyway." They went downstairs together. In the formal living room, a woman in her 40s sat on the sofa with a leather briefcase open beside her. She had black hair pulled into a tight bun, glasses that made her look both intelligent and intimidating, and an expression that said she didn't waste time on nonsense. "Ingrid," she said, standing. "I'm Rebecca Tsai. I specialize in sexual assault cases, employment law, and making powerful men very, very uncomfortable. Hollis and Camilla have told me the basics, but I need to hear everything from you. Every detail, no matter how small or embarrassing or painful. Can you do that?" Ingrid looked at Camilla, who nodded encouragingly. Then at Hollis, who had appeared in the doorway with more coffee. "Yes," Ingrid said. "I can do that." "Good. This won't be easy. I'm going to ask you things that will make you relive what happened. I need you to be as specific as possible about times, locations, what was said, what was done. I need to know if there were any witnesses, any cameras, any physical evidence. I need to know about your employment contract, your living situation, anything Warren might have said before or after the assault." Rebecca's voice softened slightly. "I know this is hard, but the more details we have, the stronger our case. Understood. Understood. For the next 2 hours, Ingrid talked. She described the gala, the expensive dresses and fake smiles and champagne that flowed like water. She described staying late to help clean up because the regular cleaning crew had left and Ruth had asked if she minded. She described going down to the wine cellar to collect empty bottles. She described Warren appearing at the top of the stairs. The way he'd smiled. The casual way he'd asked if she needed help. Then she described what came after. Rebecca took notes, her pen moving steadily across a legal pad. She didn't interrupt except to ask clarifying questions. What time exactly? Which wine cellar, the main one or the storage one? What was he wearing? Did he say anything specific before or after? Did you see anyone else? Did you tell anyone that night? Camilla sat beside Ingrid the whole time, holding her hand. Hollis stayed in the corner, his face growing darker with each detail. When Ingrid finally finished, her voice was hoarse and her face was wet with tears. Rebecca set down her pen and looked at her with something like respect. "You're very brave," Rebecca said. "And you've given me a lot to work with. The specific details, the timeline, the fact that you reached out to a previous victim, all of that strengthens your credibility." "Is it enough?" Ingrid asked. "For charges? For trial?" "That's not up to me. That's up to the district attorney. What I can do is build a case so solid that they'd be fools not to prosecute. I can also pursue civil action, which has a lower burden of proof and can result in significant financial damages." Rebecca leaned forward. "But I need to be honest with you. This will be ugly. Warren will hire the best defense attorneys money can buy. They'll try to destroy your character. They'll dig into your past, your relationships, anything they can use to make you look unreliable or vindictive. They'll say you're lying for money or attention. They'll make you relive the assault over and over in depositions and possibly in court." Ingrid's stomach turned. "So I should just give up?" "Absolutely not. I'm telling you this so you know what you're facing. So you can make an informed choice about how to proceed." Rebecca's eyes were kind but firm. "If you want to fight this, I will fight beside you with everything I have. But it has to be your choice. Not Camilla's, not Hollis's. Yours." The room waited. Ingrid thought about the baby growing inside her. About Marissa, who'd been paid to stay quiet. About the next girl, and the one after that, if Warren was allowed to continue. She thought about the dreams she'd had, all those women standing together. "I want to fight," Ingrid said. "I want him to face consequences. Whatever it takes." Rebecca smiled. It was a sharp, satisfied smile. "Good. Then here's what we're going to do." She outlined the plan. Contact Marissa and see if she'd be willing to testify or at least provide a statement. Document everything about Ingrid's employment and living situation. Get a medical exam to confirm the pregnancy and establish a timeline. File a police report today, while the details were fresh. Prepare for Warren's dinner visit tonight by setting up a recording device, in case he said anything incriminating. "Wait," Hollis said. "You want us to go through with the dinner?" "I do. Right now, Warren thinks he's safe. If we spook him, he might run or destroy evidence or pressure Marissa into maintaining her silence. But if we act normal, if Ingrid serves dinner like nothing has happened, he might let his guard down. Say something useful. Incriminate himself." "You want me to serve him dinner?" Ingrid's voice came out small. "After what he did." "I know it's asking a lot. But it could be the difference between a solid case and a weak one. You don't have to. If it's too much, we'll find another way." Ingrid looked at Camilla. "What do you think?" "I think it's your decision. But if you do it, you won't be alone. I'll be at that table. Hollis will be there. We'll make sure you're safe every second. And I'll have the recording device set up in multiple locations," Rebecca added. "Anything he says will be captured. If he threatens you, if he tries to coerce you, if he admits to anything, we'll have proof." Ingrid closed her eyes. The thought of seeing Warren again made her skin crawl. But the thought of him walking free made her feel worse. I'll do it, she said. But I need to know something first. The recording, is that legal? Can we actually use it? Maryland is a two-party consent state for recording private conversations, Rebecca said. But there are exceptions for gathering evidence of crimes. And even if the recording isn't admissible in court, it can guide our investigation and possibly be used to pressure Warren into a settlement or confession. So it's a gray area. Most effective legal strategies are. Rebecca didn't look apologetic. We work within the bounds of the law, but we use every tool available. That's how we win against people with unlimited resources. Hollis cleared his throat. What about my mother? She'll be at the dinner too. She invited Warren in the first place. Even better, Rebecca said. If Vivian tries to protect Warren or pressure Ingrid, that's also evidence. Evidence of a pattern, of institutional protection, of conspiracy to cover up crimes. You want to go after my mother too? Hollis looked shaken. I want justice for Ingrid. If your mother obstructed that justice by paying off previous victims, then yes, she should face consequences too. I know that's hard to hear. It's not hard. It's devastating. Hollis ran a hand through his hair. But it's also right. If my mother broke the law to protect Warren, she should answer for it. Camilla stood and went to her husband, wrapping her arms around him. I'm proud of you, she whispered. Rebecca stood too, packing her briefcase. I'm going to get started on the paperwork for the police report. Ingrid, I need you to come with me to the station. It won't be fun, but it's necessary. Camilla, Hollis, I need you to act completely normal today. Don't contact Warren. Don't contact Vivian. Don't give any indication that anything has changed. Can you do that? They both nodded. Good. Let's get to work. The police station was exactly as depressing as Ingrid had imagined. Fluorescent lights, uncomfortable chairs, and a detective who looked like she'd seen every terrible thing humanity had to offer and was tired of all of it. But Detective Sarah Morrison listened. She took notes. She asked questions without judgment. And when Ingrid finished her statement, Morrison looked her in the eye and said, I believe you. And I'm going to do everything in my power to build a case against Warren Ashford. Really? Ingrid had expected skepticism at best, dismissal at worst. Really? I've been doing this job for 15 years. I know the difference between someone lying and someone telling a painful truth. You're telling the truth. Morrison glanced at Rebecca. Plus, you've got one of the best lawyers in the state. That tells me you're serious about this. I am. I'm very serious. Good. Because Warren Ashford isn't going to go down easy. Men like him never do. They think money and family names make them untouchable. Morrison's smile was grim. I love proving them wrong. The medical exam came next. A kind doctor who asked permission before every touch, who explained everything she was doing, who treated Ingrid like a person instead of a case number. The pregnancy was confirmed. 6 weeks and 3 days. Everything looked healthy. Ingrid cried in the examination room, and the doctor handed her tissues without comment. By the time they returned to the Crane estate, it was late afternoon. Ingrid was exhausted, emotionally and physically. But there was no time to rest. Dinner was in 3 hours, and she had a role to play. Ruth met her at the staff entrance, her expression worried. Are you all right, dear? There have been rumors all day about what happened at the party. People are saying all sorts of things. I'm okay, Ruth. Better than okay, actually. But I need your help with something. Anything. Tonight's dinner. I need to serve it. Just me. No other staff in the dining room. Can you arrange that? Ruth's eyes widened. That's highly unusual. Mrs. Crane Sr. will complain. She likes having multiple servers. I know, but it's important. Please, Ruth. Trust me. Something in Ingrid's face must have convinced her, because Ruth nodded slowly. All right. I'll make sure the food is ready, but you'll serve it alone. Just be careful, dear. The family dynamics tonight feel dangerous. I will be. I promise. In her new room in the main house, Ingrid found a package on the bed. Inside was a simple black dress, more elegant than her usual uniform. A note from Camilla read, "You're not wearing a maid's uniform tonight. You're wearing this. You deserve respect, and clothes are part of that. See." Ingrid held the dress and cried again. Good tears this time. Grateful tears. At 6:30, Rebecca arrived with the recording equipment. Tiny devices that looked like buttons, planted in the dining room's curtains, under the table centerpiece, near the bar. "We'll capture everything," Rebecca promised. "You just focus on staying calm and safe." At 7, the doorbell rang. Ingrid's hands shook as she smoothed down her dress. From the top of the stairs, she could hear Vivian's imperious voice greeting someone. Warren's deeper tones responding. Laughter. The clink of glasses. Camilla appeared beside her. "You don't have to do this. We can still call it off." "No. I need to do this. I need to face him." "Then remember, you're not alone. Hollis and I will be right there. And the second you feel unsafe, the second you want to stop, you give me a sign and we end it. Okay." "Okay." They went downstairs together. At the dining room entrance, Camilla squeezed her hand once, then walked in to join her family. Ingrid waited in the hallway, taking deep breaths, preparing herself. Then she picked up the wine bottle Ruth had left for her, straightened her shoulders, and walked into the lion's den. Warren sat at the head of the table, looking prosperous and handsome and completely at ease. When he saw Ingrid, his smile didn't waver. His eyes didn't show even a flicker of concern. That was when Ingrid knew for certain that he'd done this before, that he'd gotten away with it so many times. The possibility of consequences didn't even cross his mind. "Ah, the help," Vivian said dismissively. "Just wine tonight, girl. We don't need you hovering." "Actually," Camilla said sweetly, "I asked Ingrid to serve us tonight. She's been doing such excellent work, and I thought she deserved the opportunity to handle an important dinner." Vivian's eyebrows rose, but she said nothing. Warren's eyes tracked Ingrid as she moved around the table, pouring wine. When she reached his glass, he smiled up at her. "Thank you, darling. You look lovely tonight. New dress." The casual endearment, the familiar tone, the complete lack of shame. Ingrid's stomach turned. "Yes, sir," she managed. "A gift from Mrs. Crane." "How generous." He took a sip of wine, his gaze never leaving her face. "Camilla, you're too kind to the staff. They'll start expecting special treatment." "I don't think kindness should be special," Camilla said. Her voice was light, but her eyes were steel. "I think it should be standard. Don't you agree, Warren?" Of course. I just mean that one should maintain appropriate boundaries. Don't want the help getting ideas above their station." Hollis's fork clattered against his plate. "The help have names, Warren. And this is Ingrid. She's been with our family for 3 years. Perhaps you should use her name." An awkward silence fell. Vivian looked between her son and nephew with confusion. Warren's smile tightened slightly. "Of course. My apologies, Ingrid. No offense intended." "None taken, sir." Ingrid retreated to the sidebar, her heart pounding. The dinner continued with painful small talk. Business deals and stock prices and society gossip. Ingrid served each course, hyper-aware of Warren's eyes following her around the room. Once, when she leaned over to clear his plate, he placed a hand on her lower back. She froze. "Careful," he said softly, just loud enough for her to hear. "Don't want you to trip." It was a threat disguised as concern. A reminder that he could touch her whenever he wanted. That she was powerless. Except she wasn't. Not anymore. Ingrid stepped away from his hand and looked him directly in the eye. "I'm very careful, Mr. Ashford. I pay attention to everything around me. Every detail. Every action. I have an excellent memory." Something flickered in his expression. Uncertainty, maybe. Or the first hint that something wasn't right. "How wonderful," Vivian said, oblivious to the undercurrent. Good help is so hard to find these days. Girls with actual work ethic instead of entitlement. Speaking of which, Warren said, turning to Hollis, whatever happened to that other maid? The one from a couple years ago? Marissa, I think her name was. The room temperature dropped 10 degrees. Why do you ask? Hollis's voice was carefully neutral. Oh, no reason. Just remembered her suddenly. Pretty girl. Didn't she leave rather abruptly? She found other employment, Vivian said quickly. Sometimes staff just doesn't work out. Now, who wants dessert? But Warren wasn't done. He leaned back in his chair, swirling his wine, his eyes on Ingrid. You should be careful, you know. Working for a wealthy family. There are people who might take advantage. Make accusations. Try to get money out of innocent people. Warren, Camilla said sharply, what an odd thing to say. Just being practical, dear cousin. We've all heard stories about false accusations. Staff members claiming impropriety to get settlements. A young, pretty girl working in a house full of valuable items and wealthy people. One has to be cautious. The threat was clear. If Ingrid spoke up, she'd be painted as a liar and a gold digger. But the recording devices were capturing every word. Ingrid met his gaze steadily. I think truly innocent people don't have to worry about accusations, Mr. Ashford. The truth has a way of coming out, doesn't it? His eyes narrowed. Does it? It does. Sometimes it takes a while. Sometimes victims are afraid to speak up at first. But eventually, the truth surfaces. Especially when multiple people tell the same story. Ingrid, Vivian said coldly, that's quite enough philosophy from the help. Bring dessert and then you may be excused. But Ingrid didn't move. She looked at Warren, this man who had hurt her and Marissa and who knew how many others. This man who sat in luxury, believing he was untouchable. And she made a choice. I'm pregnant, she said. 6 weeks and 3 days. And the father is in this room. The silence that followed was absolute. Warren's wine glass paused halfway to his lips. Vivian's face went pale, then red. Hollis and Camilla exchanged glances, both of them tense, ready. What did you just say? Vivian's voice could have cut glass. I said I'm pregnant. 6 weeks and 3 days. Ingrid's voice was steady now, stronger than she'd ever heard it. And the father is sitting at this table. Vivian's eyes snapped to Hollis. You? You got the maid pregnant while your wife is. Not him, Ingrid interrupted. I've never touched Mr. Crane. He's been nothing but respectful to me. The color drained from Vivian's face as understanding dawned. She looked at Warren, who had gone very still. This is absurd, Warren said. His voice was calm, but his knuckles were white around his wine glass. I've never laid a hand on this girl. This is exactly what I was just talking about. False accusations for money. I haven't asked for money, Ingrid said. Then what do you want? Attention? Your 15 minutes of fame. Warren stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. I don't know what game you're playing, but I won't be part of it. Vivian, I'm sorry your staff has become so delusional. Perhaps it's time to reconsider who you allow in your home. Sit down, Warren. Hollis's voice was quiet but commanding. Excuse me. I said sit down. We're not finished. Warren looked at his cousin with disbelief. You're taking her side? A maid you barely know over your own family. I'm taking the side of truth. Sit down. Something in Hollis's tone made Warren sit, but his expression was furious. Camilla leaned forward. Tell us what happened, Ingrid. Everything. Camilla, you can't seriously believe, Vivian started. Mother Vivian, be quiet. Camilla's voice was ice. For once in your life, just be quiet and listen. Vivian's mouth snapped shut, shock written across her features. Ingrid began to speak. She told them about the gala 6 weeks ago. About staying late to clean up. About the wine cellar. She watched Warren's face as she described every detail, his hand over her mouth, his weight pinning her against the wine racks, his whispered threats about what would happen if she told anyone. "She's lying," Warren said, but his voice had lost its certainty. "This is complete fabrication. I wasn't even in the wine cellar that night." "Yes, you were," Ingrid said. "You spilled red wine on your shirt during dinner. Chateau Margaux, 2009. You went to the cellar to get another bottle to replace what you'd wasted. That's when you saw me." Warren's face flickered. That detail, that specific detail, clearly surprised him. "You told me I looked pretty when I was scared," Ingrid continued. "You said most girls played hard to get, but I seemed like the genuine article. You said it made you want me more." "Enough." Warren slammed his hand on the table. "I don't have to listen to this. Vivian, are you going to let your staff tell these lies?" But Vivian was staring at him with an expression Ingrid couldn't read. Horror, maybe. Or recognition. "It's not the first time, is it?" Camilla asked softly. "Marissa. 2 years ago. Same story." Warren's jaw clenched. That girl was paid handsomely for her discretion. She signed a legally binding agreement. The words hung in the air. Then Warren seemed to realize what he'd just admitted. "You paid her off," Hollis said slowly. "You assaulted a member of our staff, and instead of facing consequences, you paid her to stay quiet. It was a misunderstanding. She misread the situation. I simply gave her some money to avoid any unpleasantness." Warren was backtracking now, his smooth confidence cracking. "These girls, they get ideas. They think if they cry assault, they can get rich. I was protecting the family reputation." "You were protecting yourself," Camilla spat. "And your mother helped you." All eyes turned to Vivian. She sat rigid in her chair, her face a mask. "Mother," Hollis said, "tell me you didn't know. Tell me you didn't help him cover up assault." Vivian's lips pressed into a thin line. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, "It was 2 years ago. The girl was fine. She took the money happily enough. There was no need to destroy Warren's career over a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding." Hollis stood up so fast his chair fell over. "He raped a woman in our home, and you call it a misunderstanding? Don't be dramatic. These things happen. Men and women, alcohol, crossed signals. It's not the end of the world." "Not the end of your world," Camilla said. "But it was the end of Marissa's sense of safety. Her trust. Her belief that justice existed." "Oh, please." Vivian waved a dismissive hand. She was a maid. She was compensated generously. More money than she would have made in 5 years of work. She should have been grateful. Ingrid felt something break inside her chest. The casual cruelty of it. The complete lack of empathy. This woman truly believed that money could buy silence, could erase trauma, could make everything okay. "I filed a police report this morning," Ingrid said quietly. The room froze. "You what?" Warren's voice was barely above a whisper. "I filed a police report. With Detective Sarah Morrison. I gave a full statement. Medical evidence has been collected. The pregnancy has been documented and dated." Ingrid looked directly at Warren. "And I found Marissa. She's willing to testify now. About what you did to her. About the payoff. About everything." Warren's face went from red to white. "You can't. She signed a non-disclosure agreement. She'll be sued for everything she has." "Let them try," came a new voice from the doorway. Everyone turned. A woman in her late 20s stood there, her dark hair pulled back, her expression determined. Beside her was Detective Morrison, badge visible on her belt. "Marissa," Vivian breathed. "Hello, Mrs. Crane. It's been a while." Marissa stepped into the room, her eyes finding Warren. 2 years. 2 years I've stayed quiet because I was afraid. Because I thought no one would believe me. Because I thought I was alone." She moved to stand beside Ingrid, and the two women looked at each other with understanding. But I'm not alone anymore, Marissa continued. And neither is Ingrid. So I'm breaking my silence. I'm telling the truth. And I don't care about your lawsuits or your money or your family name. Detective Morrison stepped forward. Warren Ashford, I need you to come with me. We have questions about allegations of sexual assault. You have the right to remain silent. This is ridiculous. Warren jumped up, backing toward the window. I haven't done anything wrong. These women are lying. They're conspiring for money. Then you'll have a chance to tell your side at the station, Morrison said calmly. But right now, you need to come with me. Warren looked at Vivian desperately. Do something. Call our lawyers. You can't let them do this to me. But Vivian sat frozen, her carefully constructed world crumbling around her. Warren turned to Hollis. Cousin, please. We are family. You know me. You know I wouldn't. I don't know you at all, Hollis said quietly. Apparently, I never did. As Morrison moved to escort Warren out, he lunged suddenly, not toward the door but toward Ingrid. You bitch. You've ruined everything. I should have. He never finished the sentence. Hollis caught him, shoving him back. Morrison had him in handcuffs within seconds. Threatening a victim in front of a police officer, Morrison said. That's not going to help your case, Mr. Ashford. Let's go. As Warren was let out, still shouting about lawyers and lawsuits and family loyalty, the dining room fell silent except for the sound of Vivian's quiet crying. I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't know it was like this. Marissa never said. She just took the money. I thought. You thought what you wanted to think, Camilla said. You thought protecting the family name was more important than protecting vulnerable women. You thought money fixed everything. I was wrong. Vivian looked up, tears streaming down her face. I was so wrong. Marissa, Ingrid, I am so deeply, deeply sorry. Your apology means nothing, Marissa said bluntly. You had a choice 2 years ago, and you chose Warren. You chose silence. You chose to let him hurt someone else. I know, and I will regret it for the rest of my life. Vivian stood on shaking legs. What can I do? How can I make this right? You can testify, Ingrid said. About the payoff. About what Warren told you. About everything you know. They'll destroy the family reputation. The Crane name will be. The Crane name, Hollis interrupted, will survive. What won't survive is this family pretending to be something it's not. No more secrets. No more protecting predators. We face this head-on, or I walk away from all of it. The company, the estate, the trust fund. All of it. Vivian looked at her son with shock. You don't mean that. I absolutely mean it. Choose, Mother. Right now. Do you stand with Ingrid and Marissa, or do you stand with Warren? The silence stretched. Ingrid watched emotions flicker across Vivian's face. Pride. Shame. Fear. Grief. Finally, the older woman straightened her shoulders. I'll testify. I'll tell them everything about the payoff. About what Warren said. About how I failed Marissa. She looked at the two younger women. It won't undo the harm. But it's a start. Marissa nodded slowly. It's a start. Rebecca Tsai emerged from the hallway where she'd been monitoring the recording equipment. We got everything. Every word Warren said, every admission, every threat. This, combined with both women's testimonies and Vivian's cooperation, gives us a very strong case. What happens now? Ingrid asked. Now Warren gets processed, probably makes bail because he has money, and we begin building the case. It'll take time. Months, maybe longer. But we're going to win this. Rebecca's smile was sharp. I guarantee it. As the others began discussing legal strategies, Ingrid felt a gentle hand on her shoulder. Camilla stood beside her, eyes red but determined. You did it, Camilla said softly. You were so brave. We did it, Ingrid corrected. I couldn't have done this alone. Maybe not. But you started it. That kiss yesterday, as crazy as it was, it changed everything. Camilla smiled. Who knew that kissing my husband would be the beginning of justice? Despite everything, Ingrid laughed. It felt good to laugh. Like breathing after being underwater too long. Marissa joined them, and the three women stood together in the wreckage of the dinner party. Outside, they could hear Warren still protesting as he was loaded into the police car. Inside, Vivian sat with her head in her hands, while Hollis and Rebecca discussed next steps. What will you do now? Marissa asked Ingrid. After everything settles? I don't know. I haven't thought that far ahead. Ingrid placed a hand on her stomach. I have this little one to think about now. I need to figure out how to give them a good life. You'll stay here, Camilla said firmly. Not as staff. As our guest. For as long as you need. We have plenty of room, and you're going to need support during the pregnancy. I can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Actually, I'm insisting. Camilla's expression softened. You're going to need prenatal care, legal support, someone to talk to when things get hard. Let us help. Please. Ingrid felt tears prick her eyes. Why are you being so kind to me? Because someone should have been kind to Marissa. Because someone should have believed her. Because I'm trying to be the person I wish had existed 2 years ago. Camilla took both women's hands. Because we're in this together now. All of us. The doorbell rang. More police, arriving to collect evidence and take additional statements. The night was far from over. But something had shifted. Something fundamental had changed. 3 women who had been alone were alone no more. And in the morning, when the news broke about Warren Ashford's arrest, when the society pages exploded with scandal, when the Crane family name was dragged through the mud, Ingrid woke up in her comfortable guest room with sunlight on her face and realized something important. She wasn't afraid anymore. Ruth brought breakfast on a tray again, but this time her demeanor was different. Respectful. Almost reverent. The whole staff is talking about what you did, Ruth said quietly. About how you stood up to him. How you got justice. There are 3 other girls, Ingrid. 3 others who Warren hurt over the years in different households. They're coming forward now. Because of you. Ingrid's hand trembled on her coffee cup. 3 others. 3 that we know of so far. Your bravery gave them courage. Ruth squeezed her shoulder. You started something important. Something that's going to change how these wealthy families treat their staff. How they protect predators. You're a hero. I'm not a hero. I'm just someone who got tired of being scared. Sometimes that's the same thing. After Ruth left, Ingrid stood at the window looking out over the estate grounds. Somewhere in the city, Warren was probably calling lawyers, planning his defense, still believing his money would save him. Let him believe it. Because Ingrid knew something he didn't. She knew about the 3 other women. About Marissa's willingness to testify. About Vivian's cooperation. About the recordings that captured every incriminating word he'd said. She knew that justice, real justice, was coming. Her phone buzzed. A text from a number she didn't recognize. This is Jennifer. I worked for the Patterson family 3 years ago. Warren assaulted me too. I stayed quiet because I was afraid. But I'm not afraid anymore. Thank you for being brave enough to speak first. I'm ready to tell my story now. Ingrid read the message 3 times, tears streaming down her face. Then she forwarded it to Rebecca with a simple note, another one. How many do we need before they can't ignore us anymore? Rebecca's response came immediately, 1 was always enough. But 5 makes it impossible to dismiss, as he said, she said. We're building something bigger than 1 case now. We're building a pattern. And patterns don't lie. Over the next few weeks, the case grew. Jennifer came forward officially. Then 2 others, Sarah and Nicole, women who had worked in different households where Warren had business or family connections. All of them had similar stories. All of them had been silenced with money or threats or the belief that no one would take their word over a wealthy man's. All of them found courage in each other. The media storm was intense. The Crane family name was everywhere, not for business success or charitable donations, but for protecting a predator. Hollis gave a statement taking full responsibility for not creating a safe environment for staff. Vivian publicly apologized and announced a foundation to support assault survivors, funded entirely with her personal money. It wasn't enough to erase the harm, but it was something. Warren's lawyers tried every trick. Character assassination. Claims of conspiracy. Suggestions that all 5 women were lying for money or attention. But the evidence was overwhelming. Medical records. Timelines that matched. NDAs and payoffs that established a pattern. And the recording from the dinner, where Warren had admitted to paying off Marissa. 3 months into the pregnancy, Ingrid sat in Rebecca's office with Marissa, Jennifer, Sarah, and Nicole. 5 women who had been alone, now sitting together, preparing for the trial. The DA is offering a plea deal, Rebecca said. 20 years, no parole. Warren's lawyers are recommending he take it because they know if this goes to trial, he's looking at much longer. Will he take it? Ingrid asked. His ego says no. His lawyers say yes. We'll know by the end of the week. Rebecca looked at each woman in turn. But I need you all to prepare for the possibility of trial, of testifying, of reliving what happened in front of a courtroom. I'll do it, Marissa said immediately. Me too, Jennifer added. One by one, they all agreed. Whatever it took. In the end, Warren's lawyers won the argument. He took the plea deal. 20 years in prison for 5 counts of sexual assault. It wasn't everything, but it was something. It was consequences. It was justice. The day the plea was entered, all 5 women sat in the courtroom. Warren was led in wearing an orange jumpsuit instead of an expensive suit. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. When the judge asked if he understood the terms of the plea and the rights he was giving up, Warren's voice was barely audible. Yes. And how do you plead to the charges? A long pause. Then guilty. The word echoed through the courtroom. Ingrid felt Camilla squeeze her hand on one side, Marissa on the other. Guilty. 20 years. Justice. When it was over, when Warren had been led away and the courtroom had cleared, the 5 women stood together in the hallway. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. But inside their circle, there was peace. We did it, Sarah whispered. We actually did it. You did it, Nicole said, looking at Ingrid. You started it. You were brave first. We were all brave, Ingrid said. Every single one of us. They stood there for a moment longer, these 5 women who had survived, who had fought, who had won. Then they walked out of the courthouse together into the bright afternoon sun. Camilla was waiting outside with Hollis and Theo. The little boy ran to Ingrid immediately. Miss Ingrid. Mama said the bad man has to go away for a very long time. That's right, sweetie. He does. Good. Because you're my friend and friends protect each other. Theo's gap-toothed smile was radiant. Ingrid knelt down carefully, mindful of her growing belly, and hugged him. Yes, they do. Thank you for being my friend, Theo. As they drove back to the estate, Ingrid watched the city pass by the window. She thought about the girl she'd been 3 months ago, terrified and alone, believing she had no options. She thought about the desperate kiss that had started everything, the moment of pure courage that had changed her life. She thought about the baby growing inside her, a reminder of trauma but also of survival. Of strength. What are you thinking about? Camilla asked softly. The future. What comes next? What do you want to come next? Ingrid considered the question. I want to finish my education. Maybe go to college. I want to raise this baby somewhere safe. I want to help other women who are going through what we went through. All of that sounds perfect. Camilla smiled. And you know you have support for all of it. The foundation Vivian started, I'm helping run it. We're going to provide legal aid, counseling, education funding for survivors. You could be part of that. If you want. I want. Ingrid placed a hand on her belly. I want this baby to grow up knowing their mother fought for justice. That she didn't stay silent. That she made a difference. They'll know, Hollis said from the front seat. We'll make sure they know. That evening, as Ingrid sat in her room at the estate, she received a call from an unknown number. Hello. Ingrid? This is Patricia Brennan. I'm your mother. Ingrid's world tilted. She hadn't spoken to her mother in 6 years, not since she'd left home at 18 to escape her stepfather's abuse. Mom. Her voice came out small. I saw the news. About the trial. About what you did. Patricia's voice was thick with tears. Baby girl, I am so proud of you. And I am so sorry I wasn't there when you needed me. Ingrid closed her eyes. Why are you calling now? Because I was wrong. About everything. About choosing him over you. About not believing you when you told me what he did. About letting you leave instead of making him leave. Patricia sobbed. I was weak and scared and I failed you. But watching you on TV, seeing how brave you were, it made me realize I could be brave too. What do you mean? I left him. Filed for divorce. And I testified against him. He's being charged now. For what he did to you. For what he did to me all these years. Patricia's voice strengthened. You inspired me, Ingrid. You showed me that we don't have to live in fear. That we can fight back. That we can win. Tears streamed down Ingrid's face. Mom, can I see you? I know I don't deserve it. I know I have years of apologizing to do. But I want to be part of your life again. If you'll let me. I want to meet my grandchild. Ingrid thought about holding on to anger. About making her mother suffer the way she'd suffered. But she thought about the community of women who had supported her. About Camilla, who had believed her. About Marissa and Jennifer and Sarah and Nicole, who had stood with her. She thought about forgiveness and second chances and the fact that sometimes people needed to see courage before they could find their own. Yes, Ingrid said. Come see me. We have a lot to talk about. But yes. When she hung up, Camilla was standing in the doorway. I heard, she said gently. Your mother. Yes. She left her husband. She's testifying against him. She wants to be part of my life again. How do you feel about that? Ingrid considered. Scared. Hopeful. Uncertain. But mostly, I feel like maybe good things can come from terrible situations. Like maybe all of this pain had a purpose. Camilla sat beside her on the bed. Can I tell you something? That day you kissed Hollis, I was furious. Humiliated. Hurt. I wanted to throw you out and never think about you again. I know. I'm sorry. Don't be. Because that kiss, that desperate dramatic gesture, it woke me up. It made me see the people I'd been ignoring. It made me confront my own past trauma. It brought justice for 5 women. It changed everything. Camilla took her hand. Sometimes the most unexpected moments lead to the most important changes. Do you think I did the right thing? Keeping the baby. I think you're doing what feels right for you. And that's all any of us can do. Ingrid looked down at her growing belly. 4 months now. Soon she'd feel movement. Soon this little life would be real in a whole new way. I'm going to name them Hope, she said suddenly. If it's a girl, Hope. If it's a boy, maybe Justice. Something that reminds them they came from darkness, but they are light. Those are beautiful names. Camilla smiled. And they'll have an army of aunties to help raise them. Me, Marissa, Jennifer, Sarah, Nicole, your mother if she earns her way back. Ruth from the kitchen. Rebecca the fierce lawyer. Detective Morrison. This baby is going to grow up surrounded by strong women who don't take any nonsense. Ingrid laughed through her tears. That poor kid doesn't stand a chance of being anything less than brave. Exactly as it should be. 6 months later, Ingrid gave birth to a healthy baby girl. She named her Hope Patricia Brennan, honoring both the future and the mended relationship with her mother. Camilla had given birth 2 months earlier to a daughter named Grace. The two babies would grow up together, more like cousins than anything else, in a household rebuilt on honesty and respect. The foundation Camilla and Vivian ran became one of the most successful survivor support organizations in the state. Ingrid worked there part-time while finishing her college degree. Marissa became the director of legal services. Jennifer trained as a counselor. Sarah and Nicole both went back to school, their educations funded by the foundation. Warren served his time in prison. His family name, once synonymous with wealth and power, became synonymous with consequences and justice. Vivian, to everyone's surprise, became one of the foundation's most passionate advocates. She spent the rest of her life trying to make amends for her failures, never quite succeeding, but never stopping trying. And Hollis transformed the Crane Estate's employment practices, creating one of the most worker-friendly environments in the industry. Fair wages, strong harassment policies, clear reporting structures. The invisible became visible. 2 years after the trial, on Hope's second birthday, all 5 women gathered at the estate for a celebration. Their children played together on the lawn while they watched, coffee in hand, talking about everything and nothing. "Do you ever regret it?" Jennifer asked Ingrid. "Starting all this? It was so hard." Ingrid watched Hope toddle after Theo, giggling. "Not for a second. It was the hardest thing I've ever done. But it was also the most important." "That kiss, though," Marissa laughed. "I still can't believe you kissed Camilla's husband in front of everyone. The drama." "It worked, didn't it?" Ingrid grinned. "Sometimes you have to do something crazy to get people's attention." Camilla joined them, Grace on her hip. Sometimes crazy is exactly what the world needs. A little shake-up. A disruption of the status quo. "A kiss that changed everything," Sarah said. "Not just the kiss," Nicole corrected. "The courage to speak after. The refusal to stay silent. That's what changed everything." They stood together, these women who had been victims and became survivors and then became warriors. They stood together and watched their children play and knew that the world they were creating was different from the one they'd grown up in. Better. Safer. More just. That evening, as the party wound down and guests left, Ingrid stood in the same dining room where she'd confronted Warren 2 years earlier. The room had been redecorated since then. Lighter colors. Softer edges. The heavy oppression of old money replaced with warmth and welcome. Hollis found her there. "Penny for your thoughts." Just remembering. That dinner. How terrified I was. How certain I was that no one would believe me. "I'm sorry you ever felt that way. Sorry this house made you feel unsafe." "It's not the same house anymore," Ingrid said. "You and Camilla changed it. You made it a home instead of a monument to wealth." "We're trying. Every day we're trying." Ingrid turned to face him. "Thank you. For believing me. For standing up to your mother. For choosing what was right over what was easy. Thank you for being brave enough to speak. For trusting us with your truth." Hollis smiled. "You know, that kiss really did change everything. Camilla and I are closer now than we've been in years. Facing this together, fighting for you, it reminded us what we stand for. What our marriage is built on. I'm glad something good came from my moment of desperation. Not just something good. Everything good. 5 women got justice. Multiple predators were stopped. Policies changed. Lives were saved. All because you refused to be invisible anymore." From the doorway, Camilla called out, "Ingrid, your mother is on the phone. She wants to say goodnight to Hope." Ingrid smiled. Her mother had kept every promise. She'd testified against Ingrid's stepfather. She'd gotten therapy. She'd shown up consistently and lovingly, earning her way back into Ingrid's life one day at a time. "I'll be right there." She took one last look around the dining room. 2 years ago, she'd stood in this space and done the bravest, craziest thing she'd ever done. She'd kissed a man she barely knew in front of his pregnant wife, shattering the peace of a child's birthday party, all to be seen, to be heard. to matter. And it had worked. Not because the kiss itself was special, but because it was the catalyst. The moment that everything changed. The beginning of justice. Ingrid walked out of that dining room into a house full of light and love and laughter. Into a future she'd built with courage and determination and the support of women who refused to let each other fall. Into a life worth living. Hope was waiting for her, arms outstretched, smile bright, completely unaware that she'd been born from trauma but raised in triumph. That her mother had faced down monsters and won. That she would grow up surrounded by warriors who would teach her to be strong and kind and brave. Ingrid scooped up her daughter and held her close, breathing in the sweet scent of baby shampoo and innocence. "We did it, little one," she whispered. "We made it through the darkness into the light. And we're never going back." Outside, the sun set over the Crane estate, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink and purple. A new day was ending. But tomorrow would bring another. And another after that. Days full of possibility. Of hope. Of justice. All because one woman refused to stay silent. All because one kiss changed everything. The end. What do you think about the power of speaking up, even when it feels impossible? Have you ever had to find courage in a moment of desperation? Share your thoughts below. We would love to hear from you. The plea deal fell through. 3 days before Warren was supposed to enter his guilty plea, his lawyers found a technicality. Something about the recording from the dinner, about consent laws, about admissibility of evidence. Rebecca called an emergency meeting at her office, her face grim. "The judge is throwing out the recording," she said without preamble. Warren's defense argued that he didn't know he was being recorded, and while we had legal justification, the judge decided the potential violation of privacy rights outweighs the evidentiary value. Ingrid felt the floor drop out from under her. But he admitted to paying off Marissa. "He threatened me. It's all on tape." "I know. But without that recording, we lose our strongest physical evidence. We still have your testimonies, the medical evidence, Vivian's statement about the payoff. But it's weaker now. Much weaker." "What does this mean?" Camilla asked, her hand finding Ingrid's. Rebecca's expression was bleak. "It means Warren's lawyers are withdrawing the plea deal. They think they can win at trial now. And honestly, they might be right." The words hit like a physical blow. Ingrid's hands went to her belly, now 6 months swollen with hope. All of this, all the pain and exposure and courage, and it might not be enough. "The other women," Ingrid said desperately. "Jennifer, Sarah, Nicole. 5 testimonies. That has to count for something." "It does. But Warren's team is going to argue that you all coordinated your stories. That you're working together for a payout. Without the recording showing his own admission, it becomes he said, she said ×5. And juries, especially when the defendant is wealthy and charming, they sometimes side with the man." Marissa stood abruptly, her chair scraping. "So that's it? We just give up?" "I didn't say that. I said it's harder now. We can still fight. But I need you all to understand what you're facing. A trial could take a year or more. You'll be cross-examined brutally. Your entire lives will be picked apart. And at the end of it all, there's no guarantee of conviction." Ingrid felt tears burning behind her eyes. "I can't do this for another year. I can't be pregnant and terrified and reliving what he did over and over." "Then we consider a settlement," Rebecca said quietly. "Warren's team has indicated they'd be willing to offer a substantial sum in exchange for dropped charges and signed NDAs. "Money to stay quiet," Jennifer said bitterly. "Just like Marissa." I know it's not justice. But it's something. Financial security for your children, for your futures. And sometimes that's all we can get." The room fell into heavy silence. Outside Rebecca's office window, the city went about its business, oblivious to the dreams dying inside this room. Camilla spoke first. "How much are they offering?" $2 million. Each. $10 million total split 5 ways. Plus all medical expenses, counseling, education costs. It's a generous offer." "Generous," Ingrid repeated hollowly. They're trying to buy our silence. Yes. That's exactly what they're doing. Rebecca leaned forward. And I hate it. I hate everything about it. But I'm your lawyer, and my job is to give you all the options. You can take the money and move on with your lives. Or you can fight, knowing you might lose and end up with nothing. Sarah started crying quietly. Nicole put an arm around her. Jennifer stared at the floor. Marissa looked like she wanted to hit something. And Ingrid felt the weight of it all crushing down on her. The baby inside her kicked, a reminder of what was at stake. Not just justice, but survival. Security. A future. I need to think, she whispered. You all do. Take a few days. Talk to each other. Decide together. Rebecca's voice softened. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry it's come to this. The drive back to the estate was silent. Camilla tried to make conversation a few times, but Ingrid couldn't respond. The words wouldn't come. At home, Hollis was waiting with Theo. The little boy ran to Ingrid immediately. Miss Ingrid, I made you a picture. It's you and baby Hope and everyone is happy. Ingrid looked at the crayon drawing. Stick figures holding hands under a yellow sun. So simple. So innocent. So impossibly far from reality. It's beautiful, sweetheart. Thank you. That night, Ingrid couldn't sleep. She lay in her guest room bed, hands on her belly, feeling Hope move and turn. 6 months pregnant. In 3 months, she'd be a mother. She needed to think about practical things. Money. Housing. Health care. $2 million would solve all of those problems. But it would also mean Warren walked free. It would mean the next girl, and there would be a next girl, would suffer because Ingrid chose money over justice. Her phone buzzed. A text from Marissa. Can't sleep either. This is impossible. Ingrid replied, What are you thinking? That I already took the money once and it didn't help. I still had nightmares. Still hated myself. Still felt like I betrayed every woman who came after me. But $2 million is different than whatever Vivian gave you. Is it? Or is it just a bigger cage? Ingrid stared at the message. A bigger cage. That's exactly what it was. Another text, this time from Jennifer. My daughter deserves a mother who fought. Not one who sold out. Then Sarah. But my son deserves a mother who can feed him. Who has a house. Who isn't drowning in debt from legal fees. Nicole, there's no right answer, is there? Ingrid created a group chat with all of them. Can we meet? Tomorrow? All of us. They agreed. The next morning, the 5 women gathered not at Rebecca's sterile office, but at a small coffee shop downtown. Neutral ground. A place where they could be honest without lawyers or family watching. I want to take the money, Sarah said immediately. I'm sorry, but I do. I have a 3-year-old son and no support system. $2 million means he gets to go to college. Means I never have to work 3 jobs again. Means we're safe. No one is judging you, Jennifer said gently. We all have different circumstances. What about you? Nicole asked Jennifer. What are you thinking? I'm thinking about my daughter. About what I tell her when she's old enough to ask. Do I tell her mommy took the money? Or do I tell her mommy fought even when it was hard? You can tell her mommy made the smart choice, Sarah argued. That mommy put her child's needs first. Or I tell her that some things are more important than money. Jennifer's voice was firm. Justice. Truth. Making sure he can't hurt anyone else. He'll hurt someone else anyway, Marissa said bitterly. Men like Warren always do. Whether we fight or not, whether we win or lose, there will be another victim. That's just reality. So we give up. Ingrid heard the anger in her own voice. We just accept that predators win because they have money? I didn't say that. I'm saying we have to be realistic about what we can actually accomplish. Marissa's eyes were hard. I fought last time. Or I tried to. And Vivian crushed me like a bug. Paid me off and sent me away. And Warren kept living his perfect life. What makes this time different? This time there are 5 of us, Nicole said quietly. This time we're not alone. 5 of us without the recording that proved he was guilty. 5 of us with babies or children depending on us. 5 of us who will be ripped apart on the witness stand while Warren sits there in an expensive suit looking respectable. Marissa's voice cracked. I want justice. God, I want it so badly. But I also want to sleep at night. I want to stop looking over my shoulder. I want to be free. The money won't make you free, Ingrid said. The NDA means we can never talk about this. Never warn other women. Never speak his name. That's not freedom. That's just a different kind of prison. A comfortable prison, Sarah pointed out. One with college funds and health care and security. They fell silent, each woman lost in her own thoughts. Around them, the coffee shop bustled with ordinary people living ordinary lives, unaware of the weight of the decision being made at this corner table. Finally, Jennifer spoke. We don't all have to make the same choice. Everyone looked at her. What do you mean? Nicole asked. I mean, maybe some of us take the settlement and some of us fight. Rebecca said it's $2 million each. If 1 or 2 of you want to drop out, take the money, build your lives. No one should judge that. And those of us who want to keep fighting can do that too. It weakens the case even more, Ingrid said. If we're not united, Warren's lawyers will use that against us. Maybe. But it also means everyone gets to choose for themselves. We're not a hive mind. We're individuals with different needs and circumstances. Jennifer looked around the table. Sarah, if you need to take the money for your son, take it. I mean that. No judgment. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. But you'll think less of me. I won't. I promise I won't. You're doing what you need to do to survive and provide for your child. That's not weak. That's strong. Marissa leaned back in her chair. What if we all take the money? What if we're honest and admit that fighting a losing battle doesn't make us heroes, it just makes us broke and traumatized? Is it a losing battle? Ingrid challenged. We don't know that. Without the recording, our chances dropped significantly. Rebecca said so herself. Marissa's voice was gentle but firm. I know you want to believe we can win. I want to believe it too. But wanting something doesn't make it true. Ingrid felt panic rising in her chest. This was falling apart. The solidarity they'd built was crumbling. And without all 5 of them standing together, the case really might be unwinnable. What about Vivian's testimony? She asked desperately. About the payoff she gave you, Marissa? That proves a pattern. It proves I was paid. It doesn't prove Warren assaulted me. I signed papers saying it was a voluntary settlement of an employment dispute. Vivian can testify all she wants, but those papers say I lied then or I'm lying now. Either way, I look bad. Nicole spoke up. I'm a single mother working 2 jobs. $2 million would change my life. My kids' lives. How can I choose abstract justice over concrete security for my children? Because if we don't stop him, he'll do this to someone else's daughter, Ingrid said. Maybe your daughter. Maybe Jennifer's. Maybe Hope when she's older. Is that the world we want to create? One where rich men can do whatever they want as long as they pay enough. We didn't create that world, Sarah said tiredly. It already exists. And 5 traumatized women aren't going to change it. Not with that attitude we won't. The words came out harsher than Ingrid intended. Sarah flinched. The table fell into uncomfortable silence. I'm sorry, Ingrid said. I didn't mean it like that. I can't accept that he wins. I can't. Maybe him winning isn't about us, Jennifer said slowly. Maybe we've already won just by surviving. By speaking up. By being believed, even if it's just by each other. That's not enough, Ingrid whispered. Maybe it has to be. Ingrid left the coffee shop feeling more alone than she had in months. The other women had agreed to think about it for another day, but she could see the writing on the wall. Sarah was going to take the money. Nicole probably would too. Even Marissa, who had seemed so strong, was wavering. Back at the estate, Camilla was waiting in the sitting room. One look at Ingrid's face told her everything. "They're giving up," Ingrid said, sinking into a chair. "They're going to take the settlement." "You don't know that yet." "I do. I saw it in their eyes. They're tired, Camilla. They have kids to feed and bills to pay, and they're just so tired of fighting." "Are you?" Camilla asked gently. "Are you tired of fighting?" Ingrid placed both hands on her belly. Hope was moving, restless, responding to her mother's stress. "I'm exhausted. I'm 6 months pregnant and terrified, and I feel like I'm drowning. But I can't stop. If I stop, if I take the money and sign the NDA, what do I tell Hope when she's old enough to understand? How do I look her in the eye and explain that I chose money over making sure her father faced consequences? You tell her you chose survival, security, her future. Is that enough?" Camilla was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Can I tell you something? Something I've never told anyone except Hollis." Ingrid nodded. "The boy who assaulted me in college. His name was Brandon Whitmore. His father was a senator. After it happened, after I finally told my parents, they hired a lawyer. The lawyer said we could fight, but it would be ugly. Brandon's family would destroy my reputation. They'd drag me through the mud. And even if we won, it would define the rest of my life. I'd always be the girl who accused a senator's son." "What did you do?" "I let it go. I tried to forget. I buried it so deep I almost convinced myself it didn't happen." Camilla's eyes glistened. "And you know what? Brandon went on to assault 2 more women. I know because they contacted me years later when they were building a case. They asked me to testify, to add my voice to theirs." "Did you?" "No." The word was heavy with regret. "I was married to Hollis by then. I had Theo. I had a life I'd built on the foundation of forgetting. And I was terrified that if I spoke up, everything would crumble. So I stayed silent. And Brandon got away with it again." Tears rolled down Camilla's cheeks. Those 2 women, they took a settlement too. Just like I'd done years before. Just like we're all trained to do. Take the money, sign the papers, protect the men who hurt us because fighting is too hard and too costly and too painful. You were trying to protect yourself. Your family. I was being a coward. And I've regretted it every single day since. Camilla took Ingrid's hand. "So when you ask me if choosing survival is enough, I can only tell you what I know from my own experience. The money doesn't heal you. The silence doesn't protect you. And the regret, the knowing that you could have fought but didn't, that eats at you forever." Ingrid felt something crack open in her chest. "I don't want to live with regret." "Then don't. Fight. Even if you fight alone. Even if you lose. At least you'll know you tried." "But what if the others take the settlement? What if I'm the only one left and my testimony isn't enough?" "Then you lose. But you lose with your integrity intact. You lose knowing you did everything you could." Camilla squeezed her hand. "And sometimes that has to be enough." That night, Ingrid called Rebecca. "I'm not taking the settlement," she said. "I'm going to trial. With or without the others." Rebecca was silent for a moment. "Ingrid, I have to advise you that your chances of winning without the other testimonies are very low. One victim versus a wealthy defendant with excellent lawyers. It rarely goes well." "I know. But I have to try. I have to be able to tell my daughter I didn't give up." "All right. Then we prepare for trial. But I need you to understand something. If you go forward and the others take settlements, Warren's team will use that against you. They'll say if the assaults were real, why did 4 women take money and sign NDAs? They'll paint you as the lone holdout looking for attention or a bigger payout. Let them. I know the truth." The truth doesn't always win in court. Then I guess we'll have to make it win. After hanging up, Ingrid sat in the darkness of her room, second-guessing everything. Was she being brave or just stubborn? Noble or stupid? Was she really fighting for justice, or was this about her own pride, her own need to not feel powerless? Her phone buzzed. A text from Jennifer. I'm not taking the settlement either. If you're fighting, I'm fighting with you. Ingrid's heart leaped. She typed back quickly, Are you sure? You don't have to do this for me. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for my daughter. And for me. I need to know I tried. 5 minutes later, another text. This one from Marissa. You're both insane. But you're right. I can't take the money again. It didn't help last time. It won't help this time. Count me in. 3 women willing to fight. The next morning, Sarah and Nicole came to the estate together. They sat in the living room with Ingrid, Jennifer, and Marissa, all of them looking exhausted. We're taking the settlement, Sarah said without preamble. I know you three are fighting, and I respect that. But I can't. I have to think about my son. I understand, Ingrid said. And she did. She couldn't judge Sarah for making a different choice. No hard feelings. Nicole nodded. Same for me. My kids need stability more than they need a mother on a crusade. But I want you to know, I believe you. I believe all of us. And I'm sorry I can't be stronger. You are strong, Jennifer said firmly. You're making the choice that's right for you. That takes strength too. They hugged, these 5 women who had been united and now were dividing. It hurt, but there was also understanding. Sometimes survival meant different things to different people. After Sarah and Nicole left, the 3 remaining women sat together in silence. 3 testimonies, Marissa said finally. Is that enough? It has to be, Ingrid replied. Rebecca was less optimistic when they told her. 3 is better than 1. But losing 2 witnesses, especially to settlements, that's going to hurt us. Warren's team will absolutely use it against you. We know. We're doing it anyway. Then we build the strongest case we can with what we have. I'm going to need you 3 to be perfect on the stand. No contradictions, no uncertainties, no emotional outbursts that make you look unstable. Can you do that? They all nodded, but Ingrid's stomach churned. Perfect. She had to be perfect while describing the worst moment of her life. While Warren's lawyers tried to destroy her. While carrying his child. The weeks that followed were brutal. Preparation sessions where Rebecca played the role of hostile defense attorney, asking invasive questions designed to make Ingrid break. Mock cross-examinations that left her crying and shaking. What were you wearing that night? Had you been drinking? Isn't it true you've been flirting with Mr. Ashford earlier in the evening? How many sexual partners have you had? Isn't it possible you consented and later regretted it? Over and over, the same terrible questions. The same insinuations. The same attempts to make her doubt her own memory, her own experience, her own truth. Camilla attended every session, sitting in the corner, her presence a steady reminder that Ingrid wasn't alone. Afterwards, she'd take Ingrid home and make her tea and let her cry. I don't know if I can do this, Ingrid sobbed one evening. The trial hasn't even started and I'm already falling apart. You're not falling apart. You're preparing. You're learning what they'll throw at you so you can stand strong when it matters. Camilla rubbed her back gently. And you will stand strong. I know you will. How can you be so sure? Because I've watched you these past months. I've seen you go from terrified and alone to powerful and determined. You kissed my husband in front of everyone just to be heard. You filed a police report when you were shaking with fear. You stood up to Vivian and Warren and everyone who said you didn't matter. You're the strongest person I know. Ingrid wanted to believe her. But as her due date approached, as her body grew heavier and more uncomfortable, as the trial date loomed closer, doubt crept in like fog. What if she wasn't strong enough? What if Rebecca was right and they couldn't win? What if she put herself through all of this and Warren walked away free anyway? 2 weeks before the trial was set to begin, Ingrid went into early labor. The pain came sudden and sharp, doubling her over in the middle of a prep session with Rebecca. Camilla immediately called for an ambulance. "It's too early," Ingrid gasped. "I'm only 36 weeks. Something's wrong." 36 weeks is fine. Babies come early sometimes. But Camilla's face was pale with worry. At the hospital, doctors rushed around, checking monitors, asking questions. The baby was in distress. Ingrid's blood pressure was dangerously high. Words like preeclampsia and emergency C-section floated through the air. "I'm scared," Ingrid whispered as they prepped her for surgery. "I know, sweetheart. But you're going to be fine. The baby is going to be fine." Camilla gripped her hand. "You're strong. You've been so strong. Just a little bit longer." The surgery was a blur of bright lights and strange sensations and overwhelming fear. And then, suddenly, a cry. Small and indignant and absolutely perfect. "It's a girl," someone said. "A beautiful baby girl." They placed Hope on Ingrid's chest for just a moment before whisking her away to the NICU. "Just a precaution," they said. "She's small but healthy. Just needs a little help breathing." Ingrid barely heard them. She was staring at the tiny face she'd glimpsed, the daughter she'd carried through the worst months of her life. The baby who had given her a reason to fight. "Hello, Hope," she whispered. "I'm your mama. And I promise I'm going to make the world safer for you." In recovery, Camilla brought her phone. Messages from Jennifer and Marissa, congratulations and love and promises to visit. A message from her mother, crying happy tears over the photo Camilla had sent. And one from Rebecca, "Baby is beautiful. But we have a problem. Trial starts in 2 weeks. You just had major surgery. We can ask for a postponement, but Warren's team will fight it. They want you weak and recovering. Makes you more sympathetic, but also more vulnerable on the stand. What do you want to do?" Ingrid looked at the message for a long time. Then she typed, "No postponement. We go ahead as scheduled. I'll be ready." Camilla's eyes went wide. "Ingrid, you can't. You'll barely be healed. You'll still be in pain." "I'll manage. If we postpone, it gives Warren more time to prepare. More time to dig into our lives. More time for Jennifer and Marissa to lose their nerve." Ingrid's jaw set. "We do this now, while we still have momentum. While the truth is still fresh. You could hurt yourself. You could. I could lose my one chance at justice. That hurts worse." 2 days later, Ingrid was released from the hospital. Hope stayed in the NICU for another week, gaining weight, learning to breathe on her own. Every day, Ingrid visited, holding her daughter's tiny hand through the incubator's openings, whispering promises about the future they'd have once this was all over. "Your daddy is a bad man," she told Hope during one visit. "But you are good. You are light and hope and everything beautiful. And I'm going to make sure he can't hurt anyone ever again. That's my promise to you." Hope's fingers curled around hers, impossibly small and impossibly strong. The day before the trial began, Hope was released from the NICU. Ingrid brought her home to the estate, where a nursery had been prepared in the room next to hers. Camilla had organized everything, from the crib to the clothes to the endless supplies a newborn needed. "You should be resting," Camilla fussed, watching Ingrid move slowly around the nursery. "You had major surgery 10 days ago." "I'll rest after the trial." Ingrid laid Hope in the crib, watching her daughter's chest rise and fall. "Right now, I need to focus." That night, she barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the courtroom. Saw Warren in his expensive suit, smug and confident. Saw the jury looking at her with skepticism. Saw herself failing, breaking, proving everyone right who said she was too weak to win. At dawn, she gave up on sleep. She fed Hope, changed her, held her close and breathed in that perfect baby smell. "Wish me luck, little one," she whispered. "Mama's going to war." The courthouse was everything Ingrid had feared. Imposing. Cold. full of people who looked at her like she was a curiosity or a liar or both. Warren sat at the defense table looking calm and collected, his lawyers flanking him like bodyguards. When his eyes met Ingrid's across the courtroom, he smiled. Small and cruel and confident. He thought he'd already won. Ingrid lifted her chin and stared back, refusing to look away first. She'd survived his assault. She'd survived pregnancy. She'd survived major surgery. She could survive this. She had to. For Hope. For Jennifer and Marissa. For every woman who came before and every woman who would come after. For herself. The judge entered. Everyone stood. And the trial that would determine everything began. The state calls Ingrid Brennan to the stand. Ingrid stood on shaking legs, every movement pulling at her still healing incision. She walked to the witness stand, placed her hand on the Bible, and swore to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Then she sat down, looked at the jury, and began to tell her story. Every word was agony. Every detail a knife. But she didn't break. She didn't cry. She looked each juror in the eye and told them exactly what Warren had done to her in that wine cellar 6 weeks before she discovered she was pregnant. Warren's lawyer, a sharp-faced woman named Victoria Chun, began her cross-examination with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Ms. Brennan, you've had quite an eventuality-filled few months, haven't you? Yes. Baby trial, all very dramatic. Some might say conveniently dramatic. Objection, Rebecca stood. Argumentative. Sustained. Ms. Chun, ask questions, don't editorialize. But the seed was planted. The jury had heard it. Convenient. Dramatic. Fake. You work as a maid, correct? I did. I'm on leave now. And what's your annual salary as a maid? Objection, relevance. Goes to motive, Your Honor. I'll allow it. Ingrid's hands clenched. 38,000 a year. 38,000. And Mr. Ashford is worth approximately 500 million. That's quite a difference, isn't it? I suppose. Quite a motivation to make accusations, wouldn't you say? No. I'm not after his money. I'm after justice. Justice. Of course. Victoria's smile widened. Ms. Brennan, 4 other women originally made similar accusations against my client. Where are they now? Ingrid's heart sank. Here it came. 2 of them took settlements. Settlements. They took money and agreed to drop their accusations. Why would they do that if these accusations were true? Because fighting is hard. Because they have children to support. Because maybe the accusations weren't true and they realized they couldn't prove lies in court? Objection. Withdrawn. No further questions. Ingrid left the stand feeling like she'd been hit by a truck. Rebecca had warned her it would be bad, but the reality was worse. She'd sounded defensive. Uncertain. Exactly what they couldn't afford. Jennifer testified next, and then Marissa. Both of them held up better than Ingrid, their stories clear and consistent. But Victoria Chun tore into them too, pointing out inconsistencies in tiny details, suggesting coordination, implying financial motivation. By the end of the first week, Ingrid could see doubt on some of the jurors' faces. They were losing. The second week of trial brought Warren's defense. Character witnesses lined up to testify about what a good man he was. Business partners. Charity organizers. Society friends who'd known him for years. Warren Ashford is one of the most generous, kind-hearted men I've ever known, said Patricia Vanderbilt, a socialite who ran 3 charitable foundations. The idea that he would hurt anyone, let alone these women, is simply absurd. One after another, they painted a picture of a man who was successful, philanthropic, beloved. A man who had no need to assault anyone because women threw themselves at him constantly. He could have anyone he wanted, said Thomas Berkeley, Warren's business partner. Why would he force himself on staff members? It doesn't make sense. Because it's not about desire, Ingrid wanted to scream. It's about power. Control. The thrill of taking what isn't freely given. But she sat silent in the gallery, Hope sleeping in a carrier against her chest, and watched the jury nod along. Then Warren himself took the stand. He was perfect. Calm, respectful, just the right amount of wounded dignity. He spoke about his shock when these accusations surfaced. His confusion about why these women would say such things. His sadness that his attempts to be kind to staff had been so badly misinterpreted. "I've always tried to be friendly with everyone who works in the homes of my family members," Warren said, his voice earnest. "I believe in treating people with respect regardless of their position." Perhaps that friendliness was misconstrued. "Did you have any physical contact with Ingrid Brennan on the night in question?" his lawyer asked. "None whatsoever. I was at the gala, yes. I did go to the wine cellar to retrieve a bottle after a spill. But I never saw Ms. Brennan down there. I got my wine and returned to the party." "And the payment to Marissa Thompson 2 years ago?" "That was a severance package negotiated by my aunt after a dispute about work performance. Ms. Thompson was unhappy with her termination and threatened to make accusations. My aunt, wanting to avoid unpleasantness, offered a generous settlement. I wasn't even involved in those negotiations." Lies. All lies. But delivered so smoothly, so convincingly. Rebecca's cross-examination was aggressive. "Mr. Ashford, you just testified you barely noticed the household staff. Yet you remember specific details about Ms. Thompson's termination 2 years ago." "My aunt discussed it with me at the time. It was unusual enough to stick in my memory." "How convenient. And these other women, Jennifer Martinez, did you know her?" "I may have met her at some social function. I meet hundreds of people." "Sarah Chen? Nicole Abbott?" The names aren't familiar. Yet all of them describe similar encounters with you. Same pattern. Wine cellar or storage room. Late evening. You cornering them. Doesn't that seem like more than coincidence? It seems like coordination. Like women who got together and crafted similar stories to try to extract money from a wealthy family. Even though 2 of them took settlements and won't testify? Perhaps they realized their lies wouldn't hold up in court. Rebecca pushed harder, but Warren never cracked. He had an answer for everything, delivered with just the right mix of patience and hurt. When he stepped down from the stand, Ingrid could see it in the jury's faces. They believed him. Or at least, they had reasonable doubt. That evening, back at the estate, Ingrid sat in the nursery with Hope, tears streaming silently down her face. "We're going to lose," she whispered to her sleeping daughter. "I tried so hard, baby girl. I tried so hard, but it's not enough." Camilla found her there an hour later, still crying, still holding Hope. "It's not over yet," Camilla said gently. "Yes, it is. You saw them. The jury. They believe him. Some of them might, but not all. Rebecca says we still have closing arguments. We still have a chance. A chance isn't enough. I need certainty. I need to know that he'll pay for what he did." Ingrid looked up, her face ravaged. "I need my daughter to be safe from men like him." Camilla sat beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. I know you do. But sometimes we don't get certainty. Sometimes we just get the fight. And the hope that it's enough. What if it's not? Then we keep fighting. Different battles, different ways. We don't give up just because one trial doesn't go our way. Ingrid wanted to believe her. But exhaustion was crushing her. Physical exhaustion from surgery and new motherhood. Emotional exhaustion from reliving her assault every day in court. Spiritual exhaustion from hoping and fighting and trying so hard when it seemed like the world was determined to let Warren win. "I don't know if I have any fight left," she admitted. "Then rest. Let me and Rebecca and Jennifer and Marissa carry it for a while. You don't have to be strong every second of every day." That night, Ingrid slept for 10 hours straight, the first real sleep she'd had in weeks. When she woke, Hope was in Camilla's arms, fed and changed and content. "You needed rest," Camilla said simply. So I took care of her. That's what family does. Family. The word hit Ingrid hard. Camilla wasn't family by blood. But she'd been more of a mother these past months than Ingrid's own had been for most of her life. "Thank you," Ingrid whispered. "Don't thank me. Just promise me you won't give up." "Not yet. We still have closing arguments tomorrow. Rebecca has something planned." "What?" "She wouldn't tell me. Said it needed to be a surprise. But she looked confident. More confident than I've seen her all trial." The next morning, Ingrid returned to court with renewed determination. If this was her last chance, she'd see it through to the end. Warren's lawyer went first, her closing argument a masterpiece of reasonable doubt. "Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard testimony from 3 women who claim my client assaulted them. 3 women who, by their own admission, coordinated their stories. 3 women who stand to gain financially from these accusations. 3 women whose stories have convenient similarities, but also telling inconsistencies. 3 women, while 2 others who made similar claims took settlements and refused to testify. Ask yourselves, if these assaults truly happened, why would 2 victims take money and walk away? Why would they abandon their fellow victims? The answer is simple, because when faced with the reality of testifying under oath, with the penalties for perjury, they couldn't go through with the lies. My client is a successful, generous man who has devoted his life to business and philanthropy. He has no criminal record, no history of violence, no reason to risk everything by assaulting household staff. The prosecution wants you to believe he's a predator who has somehow evaded justice for years. But the simpler explanation, the truth, is that he's an innocent man being targeted by women who saw an opportunity for money and attention. The burden of proof lies with the prosecution. They must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And they haven't done that. They've given you stories, accusations, but no physical evidence, no witnesses, no proof. Just the word of 3 women against 1 man. I ask you to see through this money grab, to recognize coordination for what it is, and to return the only verdict that justice demands, not guilty. It was devastating, perfectly crafted, and from the jury's faces, effective. Then Rebecca stood. She walked to the jury box slowly, deliberately. When she spoke, her voice was quiet, conversational. "Ms. Chen just asked you why 2 women would take settlements if the assaults were real. Let me answer that. They took settlements because they were exhausted, because they have children to feed, because fighting men with unlimited resources is terrifying and costly and painful, because sometimes survival means choosing the sure thing over the right thing. Does that make their accusations false? No. It makes them human. It makes them mothers doing what they thought was best for their families. And the fact that Mr. Ashford's team was willing to pay $4 million total to make 2 accusers go away should tell you something. Innocent men don't pay off their accusers. They fight. They sue for defamation. They demand their day in court to clear their names. But Warren Ashford didn't do that with Sarah Chun and Nicole Abbott. He paid them to disappear. Just like his family paid Marissa Thompson to disappear 2 years ago. That's not the behavior of an innocent man. That's the behavior of someone who knows he's guilty and is desperately trying to avoid consequences. Now, Ms. Chen talked about reasonable doubt. She's right that the burden of proof is high. But reasonable doubt doesn't mean any doubt. It doesn't mean you can invent reasons to disbelieve credible testimony just because it's uncomfortable. 3 women testified before you. 3 women with nothing to gain, everything to lose, who told you about the worst moments of their lives. They described specific details, dates, times, locations, words spoken. They cried on this stand. They were brutalized by cross-examination. They had their entire lives picked apart. And they did it anyway. Why? For money? They could have taken settlements like the others. For attention? Who wants this kind of attention? The kind that gets you called a liar and a gold digger. Rebecca's voice grew stronger. They did it because it was true. Because Warren Ashford assaulted them. Because they wanted to make sure he couldn't do it again. Because they believed in justice. The defense wants you to think coordination equals conspiracy. But coordination is what happens when victims find each other and realize they're not alone. It's what happens when women discover the same man hurt all of them and they decide to stand together. That's not conspiracy. That's courage. You heard Warren Ashford testify. Smooth. Polished. Every answer prepared. He had an explanation for everything. But did you notice what he didn't have? Emotion. When someone falsely accuses you of rape, you should be angry, outraged, devastated that anyone would think you capable of such things. But Warren Ashford was calm, almost bored. Like this was just another business problem to solve. Because that's how he sees it. These women aren't people to him. They're problems. Obstacles. Things to be managed with money and lawyers and charm. Ingrid Brennan sat before you holding her infant daughter. A daughter conceived during the assault she described. She had major surgery 2 weeks ago and is still healing. She could have taken $2 million and disappeared. Instead, she's here, asking you to believe her, to protect other women from the man who hurt her. Marissa Thompson took money 2 years ago to stay quiet. It haunted her. When she heard Ingrid's story, she broke her NDA, risking legal action, to testify. Why would she do that if it was all lies? Jennifer Martinez has a daughter. She wants that daughter to grow up knowing her mother fought for justice even when it was hard, even when victory wasn't certain. These women aren't perfect. Their stories have minor inconsistencies because trauma affects memory. Because they're human beings, not robots programmed to deliver identical testimony. But the core of their stories is consistent. The pattern is clear. The truth is evident. Warren Ashford is a predator who used his wealth and position to assault vulnerable women. He counted on them being too afraid to speak up, too poor to fight back, too isolated to be believed. And for years, he was right. But not anymore. You have the power to end this pattern. To send a message that money doesn't buy immunity from consequences. That women's voices matter. That justice isn't just for the wealthy. I'm asking you to believe Ingrid, to believe Marissa, to believe Jennifer. Not because they're perfect, but because they're telling the truth. And the truth deserves to win. Rebecca sat down. The courtroom was silent. The judge gave instructions to the jury. They filed out to deliberate. And then there was nothing to do but wait. Hours passed. Ingrid paced the courthouse hallway, hope sleeping against her chest. Jennifer and Marissa sat together on a bench, holding hands. Camilla brought coffee and sandwiches that no one touched. How long does deliberation usually take? Ingrid asked Rebecca. There's no way to know. Hours. Days. It depends. What do you think they'll decide? Rebecca met her eyes honestly. I think it could go either way. I think we gave them everything we could. Now it's up to them. Night fell. The jury was sequestered in a hotel. Ingrid went back to the estate, fed hope, stared at the ceiling, and tried not to think about what would happen if they lost. The next morning, word came. The jury had reached a verdict. Everyone rushed back to the courthouse. The jury filed in, their faces unreadable. Warren sat at the defense table looking confident. Ingrid sat behind the prosecution table, trembling. The judge spoke. Has the jury reached a verdict? We have, Your Honor. On the charge of sexual assault of Ingrid Brennan, how do you find? The foreperson stood. An older woman with kind eyes. She looked at Warren, then at Ingrid, then back to the judge. Time slowed. Ingrid's heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. We find the defendant. The pause felt eternal. Guilty. The word echoed through the courtroom like thunder. Ingrid gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. Beside her, Rebecca smiled. Behind her, Camilla started crying. On the charge of sexual assault of Marissa Thompson, how do you find? Guilty. On the charge of sexual assault of Jennifer Martinez, how do you find? Guilty. 3 times. Guilty. 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 Warren's face went white. His lawyers immediately started talking about appeals. But it didn't matter. The jury had believed them. The truth had won. The judge set sentencing for 2 weeks out and dismissed the court. As Warren was led away in handcuffs, his eyes found Ingrid's one last time. The confidence was gone. In its place was shock. Fear. The sudden realization that he wasn't untouchable after all. Ingrid stared back, hope warm and solid against her chest, and felt something inside her finally release. It was over. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Cameras flashed. Questions were shouted. Rebecca made a brief statement while Ingrid, Jennifer, and Marissa stood together, arms linked, supporting each other. Today, justice was served, Rebecca said. 3 brave women stood up to a powerful predator, and the jury believed them. This verdict sends a clear message. Wealth and privilege do not place anyone above the law. Sexual assault will not be tolerated, no matter who commits it. As they walked to the car, a woman approached. Young, maybe 22, with nervous eyes. "Excuse me," she said quietly. "Are you Ingrid Brennan?" "Yes. I worked for the Ashford family last year. Warren, he did something to me too. But I was too scared to come forward. I thought no one would believe me." Tears filled her eyes. "But you were so brave. Watching you fight gave me courage. I filed a police report yesterday. Thank you. Thank you for showing me it was possible." The woman hurried away before Ingrid could respond. But her words lingered, settling into Ingrid's heart like seeds. This was why she'd fought. Not just for herself. For all the women who came before and all who would come after. For Hope, sleeping peacefully, unaware that her mother had just changed the world a little bit. Ready to go home? Camilla asked gently. Home. The word felt different now. Not the estate, though she was grateful for it. Home was wherever Hope was. Wherever the women who'd stood with her were. Wherever truth and justice and courage lived. "Yes," Ingrid said. "I'm ready." 2 weeks later, Warren was sentenced to 25 years in prison. With appeals and good behavior, he might serve 15. It wasn't forever. But it was something. It was consequences. After sentencing, Vivian approached Ingrid in the courthouse hallway. The older woman looked like she'd aged a decade in the past months. "I know my apology means nothing," Vivian said quietly. "I know I failed you and Marissa and countless others by protecting Warren. But I want you to know, the foundation we started, I'm dedicating the rest of my life to it. To making sure other women don't suffer because people like me choose family reputation over what's right." Ingrid studied her. She could hold on to anger. Vivian deserved it. But she was tired of carrying hate. "Then do the work," Ingrid said. "Don't just throw money at it. Actually change things. Create systems that protect vulnerable people. Hold powerful people accountable. Be the person you should have been 2 years ago." "I will. I promise I will." It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a door left open. A possibility of redemption if Vivian proved herself through action. 3 months after the trial, Ingrid enrolled in college. She decided to study social work, to help other survivors navigate the systems that had nearly defeated her. The foundation funded her education, while Camilla and her mother tag-teamed childcare for Hope. Jennifer went back to school too, studying law. "I want to be like Rebecca," she said. "I want to fight for people who can't fight for themselves." Marissa took over as Director of Survivor Services at the Foundation, using her experience to help others find their voices. Sarah and Nicole, who'd taken the settlements, both donated portions of their money to the Foundation anonymously. They'd made the choice that was right for them, but they wanted to contribute to the fight in their own way. 6 months after the verdict, Ingrid sat in her small apartment near campus, Hope playing on a blanket beside her while she studied for midterms. Her phone rang. A number she didn't recognize. "Hello. Is this Ingrid Brennan? The one who testified against Warren Ashford?" "Yes. Who is this?" "My name is Claire Hendricks. I'm a producer for 60 Minutes. We're doing a segment on sexual assault in wealthy households and the women who are fighting back. We'd like to interview you, if you're willing." Ingrid thought about it. Part of her wanted to move on, to leave the past behind. But another part knew that silence had protected men like Warren for too long. "I'll do it," she said. "But I want Jennifer Martinez and Marissa Thompson included too. This wasn't just my fight." "Absolutely. We'll make it happen." The interview aired 2 months later. Millions of people watched Ingrid, Jennifer, and Marissa tell their stories. Watched them describe the assault, the fear, the courage it took to speak up. Watched them hold their children and talk about building a better world. The response was overwhelming. Letters poured in from other survivors. Donations flooded the foundation. Laws began to change. Some states started limiting NDAs in sexual assault cases. Others increased statute of limitations. The conversation shifted. It wasn't a complete victory. Predators still existed. Wealth still bought privilege. But cracks had formed in the armor. And through those cracks, light was beginning to shine. On Hope's first birthday, Ingrid threw a small party at her apartment. Camilla came with Hollis, Theo, and baby Grace. Jennifer brought her daughter. Marissa brought her new boyfriend. Ingrid's mother came, sober now for 8 months, working hard to rebuild their relationship. As they sang Happy Birthday and Hope smashed cake all over her face, Ingrid looked around at this found family. These people who had stood with her when she had nothing. Who had believed her when the world said she was lying. Who had fought beside her for justice. "Thank you," she said suddenly, her voice cutting through the chatter. "All of you. For everything." Camilla raised her glass. "To Ingrid, who was brave enough to kiss my husband and start a revolution." Everyone laughed, including Hollis. "To truth," Jennifer added. "To justice," said Marissa. "To hope," Ingrid finished, looking at her daughter. "And to all the hopes we carry. For healing. For change. For a better world." They clinked glasses, these warriors who had been broken and had rebuilt themselves stronger. The road ahead was still long. There would be setbacks and struggles. But they would face them together. Because that's what happened when you refused to be invisible. When you demanded to be heard. When you fought for justice even when the odds were impossible. You won. Maybe not completely. Maybe not all at once. But you won. And sometimes, that was enough. Sometimes, it was everything. That night, after everyone left, Ingrid put Hope to bed and stood in the doorway watching her sleep. This beautiful child, born from trauma but raised in love. This little girl who would grow up knowing her mother was a fighter. A survivor. A woman who changed the world. "I kept my promise," Ingrid whispered. "I made him face consequences. I made the world a little bit safer for you. And I'll keep fighting, every day, to make it even safer." Hope stirred in her sleep, her tiny hand curling into a fist. Strong already. A fighter like her mother. Ingrid smiled and closed the door softly. Tomorrow she had classes and work at the foundation and 1,000 responsibilities. But tonight, she had peace. Hard-won and precious. She'd kissed a billionaire in front of his pregnant wife and started a chain of events that brought down a predator. It had been terrifying and painful and nearly impossible. But she'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because some things were worth fighting for. Justice. Truth. Hope. Always hope. My beautiful family and friends, what's your biggest takeaway from Ingrid's journey? Have you ever had to choose between the easy path and the right path? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Your story might inspire someone else who's facing their own impossible choice.